Hey everyone, welcome back to Pawpaw's Workshop. Today I have a different kind of problem that I need to be able to solve, and it's with bees, specifically honeybees. Now these bees were really trying to find a new home, and they wanted my home to be able to move into, and we had to deal with them. Also, if you look at this outside corner, that vinyl has been actually clawed and chewed up, which means I also had a potential problem with some rodents, specifically squirrels. Squirrels were trying to get into the house also. If you have vinyl siding on your house, then you're going to have some outside corners such as this. Well, right down at the bottom, you're going to have a hole such as this, which is a perfect corridor. Now this allows the bees and, quite frankly, rodents to be able to get inside and have free access all the way to the top, where they can easily choose through the soffit and enter the attic. Another problem that you can have is the chips that occur when you're using the weed eater. Now I'm going to address this in a future video, but you still have that big gaping hole for all the bees and the little critters to be able to crawl into that hole and go right up to the top to be able to get into the soffit. Now this one's designed a little bit different, so this would actually keep them out. But I still want to plug that hole, so I don't want the bees and other little critters making a home in that outside corner. Well, the solution to this I thought would be real simple. I could go down to the big box store and pick up a cap that fit into the bottom of this, and problem solved. Well, I ran into a little problem. So after taking about a half a day looking online and going to the big box stores, I realized that finding a cap that would slip into the bottom of that outside corner was not possible. So what's the next step? Well, it just so happens I have a 3D printer. And because I have a 3D printer, I can make my own. So I'm going to show you the steps that I took to be able to create my own caps to be able to slip into the bottom to seal it so that the bees, and specifically honeybees, can't get into the house, and that the little rodents, if they should decide to try to get in, it's going to prevent them also from getting into the house. Well, the first step is to create a pattern. I need to be able to get the correct size and shape to be able to make this little end cap. The easiest way to make this is to put the paper up there and be able to press it against the bottom of this cap to make a little bit of an impression into the paper, as well as taking a pencil and literally shading it and creating that pattern. Because this shape is going to give me everything that I need to be able to create this 3D model. Not only do I have to be able to trace the outside, but I need to be able to feel in to get the inside measurement. And I did that literally by using my fingernail and just creasing it. And you just saw a wasp fly out of that area. So that means at some point there's a wasp nest and he's looking for a home, or he's already got a home in there. Back in the shop, I took that pattern that I had just created and cut it out. Now I did this actually a couple of times. I wanted this as accurate as I could possibly do it. And once I had the pattern cut, I would actually take it back outside and put it into that opening and see just how close that it matched. Then I would make any necessary modifications to my paper pattern until I had it just right. Once I was happy with everything, I measured and put measurements on all of this. So here's the pattern with all of the necessary dimensions that I needed to be able to design this in the Tinkercad software. And this is the part that I actually designed into Tinkercad. It has these nice radius on here so that it's going to fit to that outside corner perfectly. It'll have these radius in here to be able to fit that edge in that corner nicely. And then inside it has the nice sharp corners to be able to go up against the vinyl siding. So I think this is going to work perfectly to be able to fit into those bottoms and create a good seal to keep the bees and the rodents from getting into the house. And if I take the original design that I had sketched out and put this part right on top of it, that fits just about perfect. That fits really, really good, and that worked all the way around. And on here, I just kept it consistent with my measurements, and that worked out real well. So by creating a paper pattern, it made it where it was very easy to be able to take the dimensions from this paper pattern to be able to create the actual end cap. So this became a perfect solution for my problem. In Tinkercad, this is the part that I actually designed. Now, Tinkercad is a free software that you can download and be able to design all types of different parts and projects to be able to 3D print. And this one is no different. I took those measurements, entered those measurements in, and designed this project. Now, I am by no means an expert with a Tinkercad software, but I know it well enough to be able to get the projects designed that I need to. And in this case, I just simply would take a square to begin with and then change the different dimensions that I needed to enter in based on my pattern and make the project. And I did it one rectangle at a time. Once I had the length, width, and the height, I could put this over into my work area, and then I could double check it. If you needed to, I can show you how this could slide over, and it's the exact same width. So then from there, once I was happy with the first piece, I would grab another square, bring it down, and do the same thing. I would just click on the item, change down to the height that I wanted, in this case 12 millimeters, click on the next little tab, and I would enter in the measurements that I needed. And once I was happy with the settings that I had done for the second rectangle, I could slide it over and attach it to the first piece. And then with that, I just simply combined the two parts together. And I would repeat this until the entire project was done. Now, if there are some experts out there in Tinkercad, I'm sure that there are some far easier ways to be able to make a project such as this. But as far as the method that I'm using, well, it works for me, and I was able to successfully make the part. Another question that you may have is, how did I create the radius? Because at this point, all of the corners are very sharp. Well, you have two different settings. You have basically a solid and you have a hole. Well, by creating the radius into this hollow portion and then sliding it over next to the solid component, you in essence are creating the radius. Group it together, the hole disappears, and what's left is the actual radius that you're looking for. Very simple steps, and it works fantastic. Once I completed the design and I'm happy with all of the different measurements and the look of the project, then I will just simply save this as an STL file and be able to bring it into the Cura software. The main function of this is be able to slice the project and be able to create the layers necessary for the 3D printer to print it. Now, a lot of people go crazy with the settings, but there's really only a couple settings that I need. And in this case, I changed it where the infill is 10%. I don't need to have a lot of filament inside of this. If I have the top and bottom and it's secured with 10% infill, that should work fine. The other setting that I do is I put a skirt around it just to make sure that the printer is printing a nice even flow before I start printing the part. Now, quite frankly, I used to use the brim which would attach to the project. That's really not necessary. And because of this particular design, there are no supports needed. And that's basically the three things that I will set on a particular project. By putting the skirt around this project, it allows the printer to be able to flow and make sure that the filament is flowing as it should. And I like this much better than the brim for most of the parts that I create. And because the skirt doesn't touch, that means there's no cleanup. I can just pop the part off and I'm ready to put it to use. Now, I want to be able to show you a close-up. This is what 10% infill looks like, and that's going to give plenty of support for this part. I really do enjoy having a 3D printer in the shop because it allows me to do projects such as this. Because without the 3D printer, I would not be able to make these bottom caps to be able to fit into this outside corner, and quite frankly, there would be an awful lot of parts that I would not be able to make without having this 3D printer. It is a blessing to have in the shop. Once it's completed, I can just grab it off of the plate and there is absolutely no cleanup. I am ready to go and install this bottom cap into my outside corner on the vinyl siding. And of course, I'm going to need to make a few more of these. Well, you can see the wasp is still hanging around. Well, I'm going to mess up his day quite a bit because I'm going to put this cap in and he's not going to have access to that particular location again. But you can see that this actually snaps in very easily and it fits perfect. So I'm very happy with the results of this. And at this point, I think that wasp is not happy. That wasp is looking around and says, wait a minute, I can't get in to this location any longer. This proved to be a perfect solution. Just 3D print your own caps. And to give full disclosure, there was no bees harmed in the production of this video. Even the wasp got away without being harmed. But as far as the honeybees, I want to make sure that the honeybees were completely protected and not harmed in any way. I hired a professional bee remover and he came over late at night. Unfortunately, I was not able to record that because it was done in total darkness. My plan, quite frankly, was I was hoping it would be done during the daytime in which I could share that with you. But being late at night in total darkness, well, I couldn't do the video for that. But I did hire the professional to come in and remove all the bees so that they were taken care of and safe and unharmed. So thanks a lot for watching this video today. It was a lot of fun to be able to go through this process. I was hoping, quite frankly, just to go down to the big box store and pick up the end caps, but since they don't exist, I had to make my own. So I hope that you were able to learn a few things from this video so that you can make your own should you need to. And keep in mind, there are different size of outside corners. The outside corner that I had was 4-inch. There are 3.5-inch and 3-inch. And from when I was learning, by doing all my research, 3-inch is probably more common today than what I have on my house. So again, thanks a lot for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So bye-bye everyone. See you real soon.